When we trace the roots of Western philosophy, we arrive in Greece between the 5th and 4th centuries BCE. Here, three towering figures, Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle, built the foundations of ethics, metaphysics, politics, and aesthetics. Their ideas continue to shape not just philosophy, but also literary theory. Let's start with Socrates. Born in 469 BCE, he is often hailed as the father of Western philosophy. What made him different? He turned attention away from the cosmos and toward human conduct. Instead of speculating about the stars, he asked how we should live. His weapon was the Socratic method, a dialogic style of questioning that exposed contradictions, challenged assumptions, and forced people to think critically. He left no writings himself, but through Plato we know that Socrates lived and died for truth, proving that philosophy is not just theory, but a way of life. Now to Plato, Socrates' most famous student. Born around 428 BCE, Plato founded the Academy in Athens, the very first institution of higher learning in the West. His most important idea is the theory of forms. For Plato, the world we see is only a shadow of a higher eternal reality. In the Republic, he examines justice, the structure of the ideal state, and introduces the figure of the philosopher king, a ruler guided by wisdom. And who can forget his allegory of the cave? It describes the ascent from ignorance to knowledge and presents philosophers as those who must guide society out of darkness and into truth. His blend of ethics, politics, and metaphysics shaped Christian theology, medieval scholasticism, and even Renaissance thought. Finally, we come to Aristotle, Plato's greatest student and tutor to Alexander the Great. Born in 384 BCE, he was far more systematic and empirical than his teacher. Aristotle wrote on everything: logic, ethics, politics, natural science. But for literary theory, nothing is more important than his poetics. This is the earliest surviving treatise on dramatic art. Here, Aristotle defines mimesis imitation as the basis of art and catharsis, the purging of pity and fear as the effect of tragedy. He also identifies the 6 elements of tragedy: plot, character, thought, diction, melody, and spectacle. And of course, the concept of the tragic hero undone by a flaw, or hamartia, has influenced drama from Sophocles all the way to Shakespeare. So if you pause and connect the three, Socrates gave us the ethics of self-examination, Plato gave us the vision of eternal forms and the philosopher king, and Aristotle gave us logic, science, and a lasting framework for literature through the poetics. Together, they remain the cornerstones of thought and the essential background for any serious study of philosophy or literature. Before we dive deeper into modern criticism, let's take a step back and remind ourselves of where it all began. Classical criticism, the true cornerstone of Western literary thought. It all starts in ancient Greece with Plato and Aristotle. Plato questioned poetry's ethical value and its distance from truth, often suspicious of its power to seduce emotions. Aristotle, in contrast, defended poetry in his Poetics, describing it as knowledge rooted in mimesis, the imitation of life and catharsis, the purgation of emotions. Already, we see the two poles of literary debate. Is poetry dangerous illusion, or is it a form of truth? In Rome, Horace brought a craftsman's precision. His Ars Poetica stressed balance, decorum, and proportion rules that shaped the neoclassical ideals of later Europe. Then comes Longinus, who shifted the conversation entirely. With his treatise on the Sublime, he showed that literature's true power lies not in rules, but in its ability to lift us, to transport us beyond reason into awe and grandeur. Fast forward to the Middle Ages and Renaissance, when classical learning was revived. Thinkers like Dante and Boccaccio took the old ideas but also defended the vernacular, combining classical heritage with humanist ideals. Their vision placed everyday language Italian, not Latin, at the heart of cultural expression. Pause here because this is important. The debates they began about truth, beauty, morality, and literary form still define literary studies today. And just to remind you, we already examined these thinkers and their contributions in chapter 1 of our Literary Criticism and Theory Unlocked section, where we laid out their ideas in detail. Here, we are revisiting them briefly as the essential starting point for everything that follows. So, classical criticism is our foundation, Plato's suspicion, Aristotle's defense, Horace's rules, Longinus' Sublime, and the Renaissance revival through Dante and Boccaccio. Together, they set the stage for centuries of critical debate.